Hey there, welcome back to another video. This time it is another episode of the Watchlist. And this time I watched a couple animes. These were... Well, the first film was a film that a good friend of mine, Jonathan, he sent me in the mail and he wanted to hear my thoughts on. And the second one is the sequel to this film. So, as you can see by the title of this video, I'm talking about Golgo 13. Now, the first anime I'm going to talk about is the first Golgo 13 anime, The Professional. Golgo 13, The Professional. Now, this is a pretty violent film. It was released in 1983. It's directed by Osamu Dezaki. It has a screenplay by Shukei Nagasaka. It stars the voice talents of Tetsuro Sagawa, who plays the voice of Duke Togo, Golgo 13 in the Japanese version, and the English dub is dubbed by Greg Sinegoff. Leonard Dawson is voiced by Goro Naya in the Japanese version. The dub version, he's voiced by Michael McConaughey. Cindy is voiced by Toshiko Fujita, and in the English version, it's voiced by Joyce Kurtz. And, you know, so on and so forth. So, no really well-known American voice actors in this versus some of the other animes that have more well-known voice actors who dub particular roles. But, there were some competent guys they got for the Streamline Pictures dub. So, it also features music by Toshiyuki Kimori, cinematography by Hirokata Takahashi, and it's edited by Mitsuo Tsurubuchi, and it has a running time of about 91 minutes, and it goes by at a pretty decent pace. I thought the film was okay. I wasn't in love with the movie. There are elements about it that I definitely did enjoy and liked, but it's just one of those movies that I just thought was a time waster for me personally. I felt the story is a bit scattershot. It starts out with a completely different story with this character who is the daughter of this mob guy, and you find it's this whole okay, let's see, trying to find yeah. So yeah, it's this powerful crime boss in Sicily, and she has this tendency to get nude constantly. Like, this film has so much cartoon anime nudity in it. I mean, you know, I almost wanted to I'm almost surprised this wasn't renamed Golgo 13, the porno professional, because it is such a porno in a lot of ways. It even has that kind of porno music that you hear in a porno, and there's this one lady, she gets nude like 2 to 3 times in like the first 20 minutes of the movie, and this whole subplot with her just seems a bit scattershot with the rest of the plot. It feels like it's an episode of some standalone anime TV show version of Golgo that was just tacked on to the opening of the film. The rest of the plot, though, deals with this rich head of a corporation named Leonard Dawson, who's trying to get revenge for the death of his son, who was killed by Golgo 13. So he's trying to hire all these people to take Golgo 13 out. And not being that successful, because Golgo 13 is a professional after all. And it ultimately ends tragically for Dawson, and he falls to his death, and Golgo 13 ends up surviving. So all of his efforts to take out the guy who killed his son were all for naught. The thing is, you also find out that, spoiler, that his son ended up committing suicide. He's the one that hired Golgo 13 to shoot him because he was upset and depressed with how his life was going, and decided in order to end it, he had Golgo 13 end it for him, which is an interesting, really tragic plot line. Dawson is an interesting character. I like the fact that he was not your typical just 100% evil corporation bad guy, but the lengths that he went to get revenge really made me lose sympathy for him. It's not that sympathetic of a character for me, despite what happened to his son, because he goes to extreme lengths to try to take out Golgo 13, including kidnapping his granddaughter and trying to brainwash her and and taking her away from her mother. So there's just a lot of these things that he does that just I just lose any sympathy. He bails out these two psychotic soldiers who were the survivors of this really messed up plan that the military had by dumping all these soldiers and these really top of the line killers into this jungle and having them fend for themselves and fight each other, and the strongest and the best man would end up winning and survive, and left them there for months. So these guys are absolutely crazy, and he bailed them out because he wants Golgo 13 so bad. So yeah, I don't really have a lot of sympathy for Dawson. I really don't. I have sympathy for the son. That's really too bad about he felt that things were so bad that he had to take his own life. But the father, not so much. Golgo 13 himself is not really the most engaging or interesting character. He's essentially just a badass who sleeps with women, and that's fine. But he doesn't have much of a personality. He's very bland as a character, and the only way that he really stands out is his ability. His ability as a hitman. He's the best in the world, and he's really good when it comes to action and all of that. So he's a man of action, not a man of words. And that can be fine, but in a movie that's like 90-something minutes and you have a very bland lead, it can be kind of hard to sit through at times. But the film makes up for it with some really nice style and flair. The opening credits I love. It's this hilarious mix of really dated CGI and stop motion and a song called Pray For You, and it's got all these skeletons and stuff. I don't know what the skeletons have to do with the movie, but it's there, and I love it. And there were other aspects of the film in terms of the action that I really enjoy. I like the stylistic choices with the action sequences. Some of them are really creative too. For instance, Golgo's trying to take out this guy who's hanging out in the top level of this skyrise somewhere in the U.S., and he cleverly comes up with the idea of shooting a bullet through the window of a building that's in front of the building that the guy's in. So he shoots a bullet through the window of the building that's in front of the building that the guy is in, that he wants to take out. And so the bullet goes through that window, then goes through the other window and kills the guy. I thought that was a really ingenious way to take out a hit. And there were other really fun stuff like car chases, and there's a great finale in the end where Golgo goes up against a whole group of killers and security guys in Dawson's headquarters. It reminded me of Dredd or John Wick, so it just, you can see a little bit of John Wick influences with this for sure. But John Wick's a more sympathetic character. John Wick is a more interesting character than Golgo 13. But Golgo 13, there's still some, like I said, I can still have some fun with this because the action when it is there is fun. I like the fact that it's a anime that takes place for the most part in the United States. That makes it also stand out. And the anime style is, especially of the women in the film, are definitely more Americanized. So I like the fact that it took the extra step to be more close to the American ideal, or closer to what the American animation style was like. So I like that. Um, there are some other things though that I wasn't too. There's like this random sequence near the climax where Golgo 13 is being attacked by CGI helicopters, and it's dated as hell. It's laughably terrible. It does not fit the rest of the movie. I don't know what the filmmakers were thinking. I guess maybe they were like, Americans are doing CGI in films like Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan, and Tron. We can do that too. Here's our CGI in Golgo 13. It just did not make any sense why it was there. It was just a random scene of CGI buildings and a CGI helicopter, or helicopters flying around shooting at Golgo 13, intercut with traditional animation, and it's a total eyesore. It really is. I also felt the characters of Gold and Silver were really disappointing. Like, they were built up as these total badasses, and at least in the English dub, they came across as a bunch just total lame asses. They were taken out a little bit too fast by Golgo 13, and they were just annoying. Like, in the English dub, they didn't really say very many lines. It was just a lot of hey-ya, hoo-ah! It was just really obnoxious. I could not stand either of them. And then there was this character who was like a snake guy, and he really didn't get the best comeuppance in my opinion. He still died, but it was kind of lame how he died. So that was a little bit of a letdown, because this is a guy who is a total piece of shit, who was raping this other girl. And it's another reason why Dawson, the father, Leonard Dawson, I have no sympathy for. He locked up this poor woman with this psychopathic snake man, and in order to get him to take out Golgo 13. So yeah, I don't have any sympathy for that kind of shit. But yeah, he's this fucking rapist snake man, and he gets a very lackluster comeuppance in terms of how he gets taken out by Golgo 13. It's just, he gets shot up by the helicopters. Golgo 13 isn't even the one that actually does the final killing blow. So I would have liked that to happen. So that's a little bit of disappointment there. But despite despite a good amount of problems I have with it, it's still a fun film. It's still entertaining. I've seen a lot worse. I don't have a ton of experience with anime, so maybe as I see more anime films, this might fall even further down the list. But from what I've seen, it's fine, and I would definitely say that if it interests you, give it a watch sometime, at least for the action. It's got some good action in it. Now, Golgo 13 Queen Bee, which is an OVA, which was released in 1998. It was original video animation, and I believe it was released in the United States by Urban Vision Entertainment. So it was a direct-to-video sequel, essentially, to Golgo 13. This one is directed by Osamu Dezaki, features a screenplay by Akihiro Tago, and it stars Tesho Genda as the voice of Duke Togo in the Japanese version, and John DiMaggio as the voice of Duke Togo in the Urban Vision version. Now, John DiMaggio, you might recognize because he's the voice of Bender in Futurama. So I knew that voice was familiar, and now that I did that little bit of extra research, that's pretty funny. So Bender is in this. He does the English dub as Duke Togo. Joanna Hardy slash Sonia slash Queen Bee, she's voiced by Masako Katsuki in the Japanese version, and in the English version, she is voiced by Denise Poirier. And you have Thomas Waltham as a character. He's voiced by Rusai Nakao in the Japanese cut. In the English dub, he's voiced by Carlos Ferro. Robert Hardy is voiced by Kiniro Amamoto. in the Japanese version. He's voiced by Dwight Schultz in the US version, and he's a guy who has done a few things. Like, he was in Alone in the Dark, the 1982 horror film, as Dr. Dan Potter. He was also in he also directed, he was also, I guess he played the director in the film The Fan. And he's done a few other performances on television for various different roles, and did a lot of voiceover work for video games. So then you have like a few other characters and voice actors and actresses, but that's the main cast of the film. It features music by Fujimaro Yoshino, cinematography by Hajime Noguchi and Hirokata Takahashi. It's edited by Seiji Morita, and it runs for about 57 minutes. Now, Queen Bee was... There were some things about it I liked, but I gotta be honest, I thought it was a step down from Golgo 13, The Professional. I thought it was below average. First off, Golgo 13 doesn't do that much. It's less of his film, and it's more of Queen Bee's. And honestly, I thought the character was well written. Akira Tago, and if I was going to look at the scripts, I would say this has a stronger screenplay in terms of character development than Golgo 13 The Professional does, but it's lacking the action and the fun that Golgo 13 The Professional had. This is played really straight for the most part, really serious, and as a result, it's kind of a dour and dull movie. The action sequences, they're not very memorable. They're bloody, but they're not very memorable. They're not very thrilling. They just are a lot of just gunplay with some pot shots and some blood, and that's really about it. There's none of the fisticuffs that were in Golgo 13 The Professional. If they are there, they're very brief. There's some nice stylistic, artistic aftermath shots that are really beautiful, but the action sequences themselves just really leave a lot to be desired. Also, Golgo 13, like I said, isn't really in it that much and doesn't do that much. It's more of Queen Bee's film. And the climax is a letdown. It's Queen Bee, she gets taken out by Duke, and the guy who's behind everything gets away with it. And essentially, because Queen Bee thought that it was her father who's the one that is responsible for what happened to her and so on and so forth, so she wants revenge on him. But then you later find out it's actually the guy who was his confidant, the guy who was, you know, his right-hand man was the one that was pulling the strings, and he's the one that gets away with it in the end and gets away with his life. Although it's insinuated that he's going to be taken out by Golgo 13 in a sequel that never really happened. So it ends on essentially a cliffhanger, and that's not really very satisfying. So that's definitely an issue. I did like the edge that this had, and the violence and that aspect of it, and there was some really good direction and some nice setup of some shots and some interesting editing and camera work. But for the most part, Queen Bee was just, it really lacked a really big sting. It was just weak. It was weak. Had a weak sting. It really didn't have the same impact as the first film did, action-wise or intrigue-wise. And I'm curious, though, I'm still curious, though, to see more of Golgo 13, because the action, especially in the first film, definitely does get my blood pumping. So I'm wondering if there's going to be, I mean, I'd heard about there's an anime series, a TV series with Golgo 13, and I'm curious about giving that a watch sometime. I'm glad that I watched both of these, though. I'm glad I gave this a shot and gave Queen Bee a shot, because both of them were worth a watch. Golgo 13, The Professional, was better than Queen Bee, but Queen Bee still had its moments. I mean, John DiMaggio. I mean, just the whole. I mean, the just fun of watching Bender play Golgo 13 was entertaining in the English dub, and I actually felt that Denise Poirier did a really good job of, when it comes to the voice acting for Queen Bee in the English dub, and the character of Queen Bee was well written and was honestly was a more tragic villain and definitely a more sympathetic villain than Dawson from the first film. But anyway, I don't know what else to say about Golgo 13 except, if, like I said, if any of this interests you, if the trailer for this sounds interesting, the concept sounds intriguing, give it a watch. And if you liked what you saw with Golgo 13 The Professional, then go check out Queen Bee, because it's definitely worth a watch if you enjoyed what you saw with the first film. But anyway, thanks for watching. I don't really have any ratings for them because, I guess if I was going to rate Golgo 13 The Professional, I'd give it 3 out of 5 stars. If I was to rate Queen Bee, I'd give it 2.5 out of 5. And, but anyway, thank you for watching. And as always, I will see you later. See ya.